Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show, the podcast that engages and informs you for success in today's marketplace. It's the show that will make you a better marketer with trends, tactics, and inspiration from experts and industry leaders. If you're wanting to impact your personal success and position your bank as the best choice in your market, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into today's show with your hosts, Chris and Dan.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bank Marketing Show. We are recording this a little before the holidays. It's coming out when you're listening to it. It's a little after the holidays. So happy New Year, future world. Happy New Year, future Chris.
Man, 2023 it's just mind-boggling. It really is, dude. Hard to believe we're there.
Yeah, I think time since like 2020 is just compressed. It's just one big ball of, I don't know what it is, but Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. And yeah, I think we all feel that way. It's time has kind of gotten a little lopsided for us. So the good thing is everybody on the planet's kind of holding hands and trying to figure that out together a little bit. So maybe
yeah. Well, and I'm excited. We're going on second year of this show, and we've got some great guests, great topics lined up, and I think we've gotten into a groove.
Yeah, it is, and it's been really cool, Dan, to watch our downloads and subscribers kind of continue to just steadily grow and grow and grow. So we're really appreciative to all of you guys that are doing this. And yeah, Dan, you mentioned it for 2023. We're seeking to even ramp up more so the value to each of you guys as our listeners. And yeah, you're right. We've already got a couple of cool authors and some good folks lined up for the near future. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, actually, bring up a good point. I think we'd love to hear from any of you that want a particular topic, hear more on a particular topic, or have a good guest idea or something like that. We'll plug our email address of contact@bankmarketingshow.com and drop us a note if you have anything you want to hear.
Yep, great idea. Right, I had one listener comment about something that eventually she wanted to hear more about a certain topic. So so same request of everybody listening. If there's something that we touched on and you were left kind of going, yeah, that was great, but can you give us a little more? Then reach out to us and let us know.
Yeah. Cool. So today, being the first podcast of the new year, we're going to talk about marketing is going to go this year. Our last episode, we kind of wrapped up 2022, and we're going to, look forward in this one to the upcoming year, talk about trends going on in the market, talk about, changes coming to digital ads, social media, those types of things, refresh a little on, we did a whole series the beginning of last year on strategic planning. It's that time again. So, just want to make this kind of a quick kind of refresh and get everybody going for the new year.
Well, super. Yeah, Dan, I wanted to share this with everybody. As you and I were talking about before we started recording today, I was giving a webinar to State Banking Association Virtual Marketing Conference actually this morning. And near the end of the webinar session, one of the participants was asking kind of a couple of different combined questions, but basically was kind of like, well, hey, what's your mindset since this person was thoroughly convinced that, we're going into a recession and we're this and that. And shouldn't we pull back on our marketing spend budgets and, kind of recoil and all that. And then my answer to her, and I've had this exact same conversation going into the new year with several clients as well, is to her question about should we recoil, my answer is absolutely not. And I told her to frame up my answer. I started this digital marketing agency in 2009 in the slap middle of a recession. And the first sets of clients that my agency had were asking those same questions. And my response was, if all of your competition is standing in fear pulling back on their marketing spend budgets and efforts, isn't this an absolute ideal time to run? Man, let's go. And, if we're all in a horse race and they're trying to conserve energy, baby, let's go. And I really think, Dan, from digital advertising strategy and lots of other tactics that we cover on this podcast, there's so many opportunities to grab market share and to be proactive and to have your brand and things out there more. And if lots of the environment around you is standing in fear, then brother, let them have it. But that's not my perspective, and that's not how we're framing our clients up for 2023. That if there's a little bit of an inhale, awesome, let's go.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I think it's great advice for anybody, right? Like, we don't know the extent of where inflation's going to go. We don't know the extent of if there's a longer term recession or how deep it'd be, right? But if people are pulling back, that creates an opportunity, right? It might not make sense to like double your budget and dump it anywhere that'll take it, but like there are some, new tactics to use, right? Maybe a particular, if the real estate market is hit, maybe you're not going out and getting a bunch of real estate loans, but there's other look for other opportunities, right? Recession doesn't impact everybody equally. And in banking, you're going after a wide variety of clients. And similarly in other industries, in real estate, like when there's a downturn, there are certain developers that will run hard at it, right? And if you can partner with them, there's lots of opportunities there. So just it's a little like too generic to just say it's a recession. Let's pull back.
Yep.
Right. It should be more. It's a recession. Let's be more tactical with what we're doing.
There you go. Tactical and smarter with what it is that we're doing. Absolutely. Even if your budget gets trimmed a little bit by the leadership, and you have to, figure out different ways to do things.
And it's in recessions where lots of product and marketing innovation comes, right? Like if you're trying to pull back, maybe that means you finally get your Google Tag Manager tag in order, and you're actually tracking conversions through your site so that you know where your advertising dollars are going. I'm making that up, but there are opportunities for figuring that out, for saying which ones of our marketing dollars are actually bringing us the business. Maybe we do pull back on some of the other pieces, but let's keep the core.
That's right. Well, Dan, that's been my experience, strength and hope, man. Because in 2009, as a startup, we exceeded every startup and ramp up goal we had in the first 18 months. And then again in 2020, after a merger with another marketing agency, we grew 22%, in the midst of the first year of a pandemic. And so did our clients.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of that was utilized, not that we have all the answers, but utilizing that approach and mentality. So that's my vote, man. Everybody, hey, don't tell the rest of the world, but everybody that's listening to this podcast, take that approach and let's get after it.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Well, and it's interesting too to like expand from just recession, right? Like if you break that down, we're still exiting the pandemic, right? We're moving on past that. There's lots of waves of still some supply chain things going on and product shortages here and there. Inflation's been really high, but there's signs that it's slowing. Like a couple days ago, before we're recording this, and in mid-December, there was another release saying the inflation rate is slowing, at least so far. Could change, but it's too easy to just say recession, right? We've got to look at, and what does that mean, right? It's inflation is on a couple different, some products and not others. I know, in like construction, things are still, moving along. We took, months and months to just get people to come out, right? They're not having trouble.
Yeah.
So it just varies. You've got to break it down and look.
One of the things that I'm hearing around all of that, Dan, from lots of our bank clients, and maybe this is sharing a best practice here too, is that maybe challenges do continue to increase with new customer acquisition. But you and I have talked a lot, and some of our recent guests on the show have also talked a lot about retention and paying very close attention to not only retention and diminishing attrition, but also share of wallet, and using this opportunity to improve relationships with your current customers and focus on increasing that share of wallet. Not that that's the answer for everyone, but it sure is a sensible tactic.
Right.
At this point, would you not agree?
No, exactly. And this is where we've talked here before we did a attrition episode, but when you want to pull back your marketing dollars, right? Yeah, maybe you pull back on the refi ads when rates are going up and you're not going to get many refis, but can you apply that somewhere else? Can you bolster customer service? Can you beef up your mobile app? Can you work on adoption, do an adoption campaign, which will make customers stickier and make them stick around more? Can you invest in analytics or some kind of data product to help you understand what's going on? And, but where it's then, you find in most industries, right, it's a lot cheaper to keep the customers you have than to go get new ones, especially in a recession. Protect what you've got in-house already, protect the revenue you've got is a great alternative to going out and seeking new.
Yeah. And Dan, you and I were talking about it, is there's so much noise, even in the digital ad spectrum these days and in the marketing world, and that is the reality. So what's your differentiator? What's your superpower, your messaging and all of that? So to piggyback on what you were just saying, it's a great time to focus on those things and do it well and tell your story well, particularly to your current customer base.
Yeah.
Because you have them to an extent as a captured audience. So maybe it's not so much of a focus of going and stretching out to other counties and, so much new business acquisition as it is growing from those relationships internally, and certainly makes a lot of sense as a tactic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dan, on that with digital ad trends, that we were talking about, one of the topics, and I know you've discussed, a good bit, are around third-party cookies. And do you want to maybe share a little bit, some thoughts around that as we go into 23?
I've been in ad tech and digital advertising for most of my career, and there's always been some sort of hint of, hey, cookies are going to go away. And I think I'm forgetting the history, but Google announced, Chrome would no longer accept third-party cookies, and this was years ago, right? And they said next year, and every year they say next year, and right now the latest, news was sometime in 2024. But it was sometime in 2020. A lot of chatter about that on just get a lot of questions around well, what does this mean for us? It really just means the move is being made for more data privacy for everybody, right? Third-party cookie is just, if you don't know, a website tracking your behavior, right? But if they put a cookie on your browser, then they can sell that cookie to data exchanges or other advertisers. And if you're searching for a flight, right, and then an advertiser can come in and run an ad against people that are searching for a particular flight or to travel in a certain month, those types of things. So that stuff will get a lot harder, not impossible, because there's still other data out there. But it just makes it harder for a lot of advertisers. And I think, the majority of community banks that we work with really only do Google and Facebook, right? And some YouTube. And, it's not until the budgets get a bit bigger that you start doing programmatic ads or stuff outside of the Google and Facebook walls where third-party cookies really make a difference. So I think for the vast majority of, community banks, you're probably, from an advertising perspective, you're probably not going to notice much.
Probably not for 2023, but one of the tactics around that, or one of the elements of that also, is that the focus may begin to shift a bit, but there are always going to be ways that us marketers can communicate with our target audiences. So, for example, maybe it shifts more into search retargeting as a stronger focus.
Right.
So, and again,
well, and that's
that current audience mentality.
Yeah, and I think that's really the trends that we're going to notice, right? Is this is happening across the industry in a way to help people maintain their data privacy. But at the end of the day, Google's in the advertising business, right? They wouldn't really be doing this if it was really bad for them. So I think we are going to see, not so much this year, but there's going to be more and more chatter if this 2024 date sticks, right? There's going to be more chatter across the year. I'm sure Google has some tricks up their sleeves to make search retargeting better, because you can still retarget on people's keywords without third-party cookies, because it's all, as long as you Google. Same thing on Facebook. You can, you can target based on people's interaction with other ads and the pages they like today. And that's not going to change on Facebook, because that's all within their walled garden. So when I say like you're not going to notice much of a difference, it's not a sort of a brush aside, but it's like there's not going to be a big shift within Google and Facebook, right? If you rely heavily on programmatic, or you're buying a lot of third party data to run your campaigns, yes, that's going to change. But I think the banks we work with that do a lot of that, have 5-figure a month budgets or more, right? So I think it's hard to know exactly who's out there. If you've got that kind of budget, and you're listening, like, let us know. I'm very happy to talk more, nerd out on the cookies a bit. But it's like, I think for the majority of stuff, it's not, there's not going to be a major sea change. There's going to be a lot of chatter, but at the end of the day, it's going to be easy. And the other note too on it is, outside of the world of search, like the third party data is so specific, right? Like, you can target people that have searched for a flight from New York to London next month, right? You can do that kind of targeting, but financial institutions don't tend to do a lot of that because of Fair Credit Reporting Act. So, and in fact, on Facebook you can't, right? If you're a credit ad, you can't do it. So, that's where my take is like, yes, it's causing a lot of disruption in the advertising industry. A lot of old colleagues of mine are now at data targeting startups, and they're going nuts. But I think for the vast majority of community banks, don't be too worried, right? You'll adapt.
Well, you'll adapt, or a lot of our under $1 billion in asset per year bank clients, Dan, are looking to us, and that's another key. Set there is agency partners like us, or whoever you may be utilizing for some of that, should be responsible for staying more cutting edge and on top of those things, so that you focus on your day job and let us do that work about shifting tactics. Maybe it's into geofencing, around events or other high populated, traffic areas or things like that aren't as cookie reliant. So, looking to those of us that are in the business, Dan, is always should be a go-to.
Yeah, advertising is not going away. The tactics just change, right? 10 years ago, we didn't really even have this level of data targeting at all. So, it just changes. And I think it, like the recession conversation we had, it's an excuse to kind of look more deeply at what you're doing and make sure that it's valuable.
Yeah. Well, Dan, the other area that we wanted to cover today is around social and social media, I guess, trends and maybe some things that are out there a bit on the horizon. And of course, some may assume that by the end of 2023, we'll all be swimming around in the meta ocean together and holding hands and all of that. And
does not look like that's.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm on that bandwagon, brother. And neither are any of our clients. I think so. But between here and Zuckerberg's daydream, let's talk a little bit about social media in 2023 and probably what it's really going to look like.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing concern's probably too strong a word. The biggest thing I'm focused on is, I'm calling it like the TikTokification of Facebook, right? TikTok is kind of taking over and growing, leaps and bounds. Like each new big social platform that comes out grows much faster than the one before it, and TikTok is that. And so even to the point where Facebook earlier in 2022 announced they're making, reels and reels and suggested videos much more of the focus on the news feed. And that's in response, that's because TikTok's a competitor. And that's in response to that is people want more and more of this video content, right? Instead of sitting down and watching a half-hour sitcom, people today, especially younger people, are watching, short form video on TikTok for, a half hour at a time, right? You're filling your time with that. And so Facebook's making a lot of changes to do that. And I think what that means for banks is, I don't know, it's really hard for banks right now to do well on TikTok. User generated content, funny, humorous content is the stuff that does well. And that's the stuff that's hardest for banks to do.
Yeah. Dan, so much of what our team here is very consistently focused on, though, is doing well and doing better on the platforms where you can do well and do better, right? So it's not, should I, the questions a few years back, we should be on Snapchat as a bank. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Don't. What are you doing? Who are you reaching? You're not going to have conversation there. You're not going to create conversions and all of that. So, Dan, I think so much of it is to do well where you can, and there's still an awful lot of room for that. And you mentioned that format change, and set of changes, and that's going to continue to evolve. It's a format evolution, and that's going to continue to happen. And the advertising tactics, with Facebook, Instagram are still going to continue to evolve as well. And what's happening. So focus around content, on relationship and communication with your core audience. And, it's closely related to that conversation about being focused on relationship with your current customers. So
the thing that's not going to change, no matter what happens on social, the thing that will stay the same is content that people care about.
Yep.
Is what's going to win.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
Engage with your customers, right?
Yep.
Find stuff that's engaging. Don't be promoting to them all the time. That's, advice, social advice for the ages.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Well, Ben Pankinen that we had on several weeks back, what was all about storytelling on social. Yeah. And I think that is the wave to be very sure that you're riding on. And that storytelling that, yes, underneath it may be about services or products that are related to your bank, but it's those life stories of relatable life stories with your customer and doing that, and the transparency of your people as members of the community and what it is that they're doing. And again, you and I say this so often, but that's so much of what the regional and national banks are not going to be doing, is telling the story of their people internally and the passion that community bankers have for the success of the people in their community. Yeah. And that's well done through social.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to the point of connection, the things that have been working well for banks, right, is individuals posting, individuals at the bank, right, growing their own followings. It's harder to connect on a profile that has the name of the bank in it, because it's just not, you're not connecting with a business. But if it's Dave, if it's Dan, if it's Chris, people more want to connect with that, right? So the advice I've been giving to our clients is if I get asked, well, how do we grow our LinkedIn following? It's like, the number of followers that you have as a bank is less important these days than is your bank in general active, right? Do you have 5 or 10 people that work at your bank that are posting a lot on LinkedIn, right? Banks that we work with that are doing that are getting lots and lots of referrals, right? And it's worth the investment in time. And as Facebook becomes more TikTok-y, that's only more important, right? If you've got somebody that's kind of natively good at social at your bank, if you've got some loan officer, things like that, or a executive member that just naturally on social or is comfortable making little videos, that's where, banks are really seeing some results. And where I think, as we see TikTok continuing to kind of grow out, where I think banks will need to get good at, right?
Yeah.
Is connecting via individual people.
Yeah.
You can only do so much with like a nice graphic and a logo, but to actually have somebody telling their story, somebody saying like what it is to work with them, that's what's going to help.
Yeah. There you go. Well, Dan, this has been fun kind of framing up going into 2023, and we always like to provide some nuggets, and I think we've covered some really good ones here. And the first one that we talked about today was perspective. And how are you standing in fear, or are you standing in opportunity? As things either get weird, or there's a small inhale, or whatever the case may be. So in doing that, and you made a great point that while we are not economists, the relationships with our current customer base and everything around that, whether it's social, other marketing communications, and taking care of your own, and the opportunities to grow and share a wallet, are really, really big ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and throughout the year, right? Just take the easy way out, right? Think through details, right? Use the recession if that continues. Use whatever the rate environment is to evaluate what you're doing critically and see what's working. And that's going to apply no matter what the economy is like.
Yep. No. And stay true to your superpower, but somehow how you do and carry out that superpower may shift a bit. So That's right. Good.
And then we talked about, so the second thing was around digital ads.
Yep.
And the cookies. And don't fret, don't fear. Google and Facebook advertising are here to stay. There may be some changes, but I think, unless your budgets are really big, it's not going to impact you that much. There'll be changes. Things will evolve, but things are always evolving. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then we kind of wrapped up with the format evolution of Facebook, and really all the other platforms is going to continue. And don't try to swim against the stream. Be a part of that, but do it well, focused around telling your story and the right kind of content, well placed, and being active in it, and in the same thing as you mentioned over on LinkedIn. So some important tips. Some good stuff today, Dan.
Yeah. Likewise, it was a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, well, Happy New Year again to everybody. Excited to have you all stick with us through another year of the show. The invitation to reach out if you have topic ideas that you want to hear about is there. Contact at bankmarketingshow.com. You can find that on the website too, and bring some even better guests. All of our guests have been great, but continue bringing great guests on the show this year, and cover everything of import.
Dan, I'm very much looking forward to it, my man.
Likewise.
All right, great. Well, take care. Thanks for today. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thanks all.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.